And we are live. Welcome back, everybody, to Behind the ToolBelt, episode 275. I am your host, Ty Cobb Backer. Thank you for joining us on this Wednesday edition. Today, we have another special guest. Stay tuned, and we will be back after a short intro from our sponsors.
TC Backer. Roofing, siding, windows, gutters, solar. Roofing, siding, windows, gutters, solar. TC Backer.
Is your lead flow down? Whether you're a company owner, office staff, salesperson, or installer, you're a roofing rock star. We help you get more leads with custom SEO, Google Ads, and a pro website.
Welcome to Behind the ToolBelt, where the stories are bold, the conversations are real, and the insights come to you live, raw, and uncut. Every week, host Ty Cobb Backer sits down with game changers, trailblazers, and industry leaders who aren't afraid to tell it like it is. No filters, no scripts, just the truth. Please welcome your host of Behind the ToolBelt, Ty Cobb Backer.
Welcome back, everybody, to Behind the ToolBelt. Thank you for joining us on this magnificent Wednesday. Hopefully it's sunny and sun shining where you guys are at today. And again, thank you for joining us. We have another phenomenal guest, Brad Akers. And, I'm pretty excited about today because, Brad, this is your first time on the show.
Yeah.
And I always get excited. I did have the privilege of meeting you out in Minnesota at Tim Brown's event. Yeah. I was, however, feeling a little under the weather with the travel arrangements. My head was, I don't even know what it was doing from being underwater on a plane and in Minnesota with different time change and everything going on. But we did get to meet each other, and it was a spectacular event. Tim always does pretty badass stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to have you on the show. And like we were talking earlier, this is a good opportunity for us to kind of spread our knowledge, inspire other people, and just leave a good mark on the industry, in general, and an opportunity for us to get to know each other better. And, I know you bring tons of value, especially for the roofing contractors trying to systemize, their processes and things. And it sounds like you're involved with, marketing and sales and a lot of the marketing that you do. I think we mimic some of, I don't know yet, but we're going to find out. But it sounds like you're a lot into brand awareness and referrals and things like that. So, let's dive into, how you went from selling shingles at SRS to, helping roofing companies scale to 8 figures, and what sparked like that shift from distribution to entrepreneurship.
Yeah, for sure. So I started at SRS, about 9 years ago now. And I tripped my way into the roofing industry, completely random. I worked for a custom home builder in the summers and Christmas breaks in college, that just one that I knew here in Houston. And I really loved it. I loved the project. I was kind of like basically whenever a project manager would go on vacation, I would come in and keep production going. And so I kind of would like jump around to different subdivisions. It was a lot of fun. Days with like 150, 200 phone calls to all the trades. And it was just like action packed.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first like foray into construction, but the housing market was kind of down as I was just leaving college. The owner of that home building company said, Brad, I mean, I could bring you in, but it wouldn't be a role that I think you'd be that interested in. And he was right. It was like just an office job. Like I had realized I don't want to be in the office because of that. And so to wrap that part up, ended up through a friend at church getting interviews at different roofing suppliers because he worked for a Certainty. So a Certainty rep. Mike Maltby. If you've been around the South in the roofing industry, Mike Maltby, you probably have met him, heard one of his crazy stories. But you might be surprised I met him at church. Mm-hmm. But ended up at SRS and I loved it. And as I was doing sales, which I was manager in training, then sales, but as I was doing sales, I was very much thinking like, how can me, baby-faced kid, come in and help these contractors legitimately like grow? And I just thought like, well, they need to learn how this works. Like I can partner with some of these other vendors, like the financing companies or the like the apps, or there was one called like Panton, which was before RoofHawk AI, like stuff like that. So I would basically really get clear on best practices with those companies and then bring those like resources to my clients. And one of the things I eventually ended up doing was learning how to do some of the marketing, like how to set up a Facebook ad. And that became my like pitch is, hey, I'll set up some Facebook ads for you. If you can get some leads from them, just buy them from me. Mm-hmm. And give us a shot. And that was essentially how I did it. After a while, as a sales rep for a roofing company, have a lot of windshield time. That windshield time became filled with podcasts and different thing like entrepreneurial books and stuff. And I just got the bug. So I just could not stop thinking about what it was going to be like when I started my own business. And I actually started my marketing agency and I partnered 50-50 in a roofing company at the same time. One of my clients. And the roofing company, we did well. The marketing company kind of took off. And this wasn't, oh, Brad, like the marketing agency was just doing so well. And it was Brad didn't know how to do two things at once because he had never been a business owner before. And the day-to-day of running a marketing agency and running a roofing company are vastly different. So I just went all in on the thing that I had 100% in. And that's how I kind of got to the B2B, like service provider side of the roofing industry. And I'll stop there. I have more, but I don't want to like monopolize too much.
No, it's good. It's good. I've had guests come on the show already and I ask them one question and they fill the whole time slot. So it's okay. It really is. And not because I'm a piss poor host, but it's like they were on such a good roll. And I know I didn't want to like interrupt and like throw them off. Not that I didn't get to ask a few other questions or whatever, or agree with them, but no. So I can appreciate that. But so you were talking about, your first introductory into like, entrepreneurship and stuff. So like, what was like the biggest lesson for you? I mean, obviously you're like, okay, Brad can't do two things at one time because I'm new to the entrepreneurial journey, but outside of that part of it, like what was like the most valuable lesson that you've learned right during that time frame that you may have applied till today?
Yeah. So it's a constant, like it's a game of like mindfulness, I think, is what I've realized. Like if you get to know me, you'll really go, wow, Brad's kind of weird. Like I'm very much like I like to think a lot. At our wedding, the priest who knows me well said, Brad's a bit of a mystic. And a lot of my friends still make fun of me today for it. But the point is, like, I really do, like, I realize so much, like, if you cannot observe the way you're thinking and get clear on how you're making decisions, and also start looking and watching the ebbs and flows and getting a better understanding of like how we impact those, or even just how we navigate those, you're going to struggle. Like, I wish I had a much more tactical version of this answer, but my real answer that I use today the best is entrepreneurship's hard. It goes up and down. There's times where you're on an incline and you think, oh, I wish I knew what I know now because I'm doing so great. But there's always going to be an inevitable drop. And that doesn't mean that you're going to just be stuck. Hopefully you're going to go up and then up, but you're always going to be on like the right trajectory. But our emotions, I think, drive us a lot. And there's been times where I've been more of a slave to my own emotions than other times. But I think the biggest lesson that I started learning then that I'm still learning now is understanding the ebbs and flows, understanding how to show up consistently either way, how to make sure that I am controlling the inputs as much as possible, and also how to make sure that I'm not reacting to everything in such a big way has been the biggest progression, but also like a lesson I would say I learned a lot when I had those two things going, and I just felt like it was all crazy because I was very like volatile. It was up and down. I was in such a good mood. And then the next day, like a client would leave or we wouldn't get a job and I would just be completely down and like in this survival mode, but like a self-inflicted survival mode, not really in survival mode, just kind of operating that way.
Yeah, no, I can completely relate to everything that you just said. And I think one of my valuable lessons, and you touched on it a little bit, was emotions, right? And it's so hard to not allow short-term emotions get in the way of our long-term goals.
Yeah.
And that is probably one of the biggest lessons that I've learned, and even other people's emotions. You know, I've allowed other people's emotions to dictate the trajectory of the goal, right? And because of that, like it has taken us a lot longer to get where we want to go because, I'm not saying that like we don't take other people's feelings into consideration and things like that, but if we know that this is the right thing to do and it might step on a couple people's toes, you know, we need to forge ahead. And that's, you know, we're not always everybody's number one fan. Being in a leadership or an entrepreneurial position, you know, we're not always going to be the most liked person. And it's like, you know, heavy is the head that wears the crown at times. But I think being resilient, like we were talking before the show here, you know, remaining resilient and consistent, right? And that's, you know, through those painful times is unfortunately, from my experience, is where the real growth happens, right? Like I can choose to stay in bed and, you know, and let my head down and, you know, and feel defeated and just stay stuck, you know, or I can continuously do the work, even though I don't feel like doing it, you know, even though I don't want to do it. And even though I feel like I'm doing it half-ass, right? It's in those half-ass moments of just doing it and doing it and doing it until it starts to feel better, until I start to feel better. And then I start to see light at the end of the tunnel, you know, and then I feel better about it because I at least continue to suit up and show up every single day and continue to just keep pushing back and keep punching back as I'm taking the punches, right? I'm punching back twice as hard and I feel like I'm not really getting anywhere, but I you know, I feel better because I did it. And because I continue to keep doing it. And then I have the motivation to keep going because I stop, I turn around, I look back. It's like, well, shit, I have been moving forward.
Yeah.
Right. Even in those times I felt
even
like
baby steps. And like, that's the thing that's okay. Like, as long as our emotions will send us backwards a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
but there's a set of inputs that we all know. Like we all know. It's like when someone says they have a lead problem, I'm like, no, you don't. You have a pride problem. You just don't want to knock doors. That's okay. I don't love knocking doors either. And I'm not suggesting that even needs to be the route that you go to grow your business. But stop living in fairy world. Stop just misdiagnosing what the actual root of the issue is. And what I've found is there's a line. This is just neutral. You're on a high, everything's great, and then you're on a low. I would say the thing that I've developed the most and gotten better at and am becoming more aware of is simply, how can I make sure that I don't get too comfortable if I'm on an incline? And how can I make sure that I don't have to go to what feels like a rock bottom moment before I snap out of it and to take the action to actually progress again? Because that's the cycle that I had been on for years, honestly. I'm like 6 years into entrepreneurship now. I've been so blessed to be I've bought businesses and sold businesses and merged. Like I have a lot of really cool little accolades, but there's been so many dreadful days and nights that weren't necessary, that were really because I just needed to hit some low before I could finally snap out of it and just do the work again. And the work is the work. Like it doesn't change. It doesn't care how you're feeling. And I think that's kind of part of what you are saying is like, hey, you might be half-assing it, but the work's the work. Like a step forward is a step forward. Just because you're not sprinting doesn't mean that you're not progressing. And so it's been something I'm grateful for. I've worked with leadership and mindset coaches to help me with that. It's not like just some Brad wisdom. It's borrowed wisdom for sure, but it's been really impactful for me. And I think that's one of the things I even try to help my clients with is like, hey, what are the inputs? What are the things that we can do, whether we're feeling great or feeling bad? How can we ensure that they're getting done no matter how we're feeling? Because we're going to have ups and downs. And that's one of the big things that I like, the way I approach things with them, because I just think it's so key, because it's hard. Like we're in a small percentage of people.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
And I'm my own worst critic. And that's what I mean when I feel like sometimes I'm just half-assing this, right? It's, and honestly, and I'm not even saying this in an arrogant way, but it's like, sometimes my half-ass is still better, than most people's, 100%. And I'm
in the game longer.
Yeah. Right. You know what I mean? And again, I wasn't saying that arrogantly. And, but I will be so hard on myself at times, and I'll get fixated on the 5% that might not be going well. And 95% of everything else is going exactly the way it's supposed to be going. It may not be the way that I think it should be going, but it's and really at the end of the day, what it comes down to, and we measure success. A lot of people measure success so differently, right? And today, and the older that I get, it's like, success isn't just always professionally, right? And what I do at work and the amount of money and blah, 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 blah. A lot of people talk about, it's not the amount of money, it's the amount of people that you've impacted, right? And that's cool too, right? To say that kind of thing. But where I've been, and in this whole work-life balance thing that everybody, that's kind of catchy right now too. Yeah. And I recently read a book. It's called, The One Thing.
I've heard of that. I haven't read it, but I've heard of it.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I got out of the book is, screw work-life balance, because anytime I'm trying to balance something, if I'm at work, my home life is suffering, and if I'm spending too much time at home, then work is suffering. And basically the dude sums it up to like, if you're at work, work. If you're at home, be at home. If you're going to play, right? Even if you're at home for 5 minutes, be there intentionally for that 5 minutes, right? But when you're at work, just work. Like, don't bring your issues or even the good things to work. Like just be at work and work. You know what I mean? Instead of like focusing on trying to find balance, because ultimately at the end of the day, you're going to drive yourself crazy and then everything's going to suffer.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not even perfect at this by no means. And again, that's kind of where I'm measuring my success today is like, if I was at work today, was I actually at work? If I have plans with my wife and children tonight or yesterday, was I intentional with that time that I was with, or was I on my phone the whole time? Was I,
Mhm.
and I'm not saying there hasn't been times where we're at the grocery store where I have to walk away and have to take that call. You know what I mean? And I think your significant other also plays into
Oh yeah.
a lot of your success too, and how tolerant and patient they are. Right. And thank God for Jana and how patient she is with me. But like I've had to walk away and come back because they don't need to hear the drama or whatever, or the frustration. I need to come back and I need to bounce back and be resilient and be there. Okay. So it's like, okay, I took the one call, I'm done, phone in the back pocket, and be there. Right. And I know it's just at the grocery store, but we've had some of the best conversations in line at the grocery store. Right.
Mhm.
I've watched my children grow up in lines at grocery stores. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I've helped them pick out their favorite cereals. I've helped pick out the coolest new Hot Wheels or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, in those precious moments that are so special to them. You know, I don't want to lose those little things. And now I got the opportunity and pleasure of helping raise three beautiful, wonderful grandchildren. I have three children, I have three grandchildren. And where I feel like I've screwed up with my kids, you know, I get a do-over. I get a hall pass with my grandchildren, you know what I mean? And I get to spend, but I will beat the crap out of myself so much. And but yeah, you know, that's good. So getting off that topic, unless you want to unless you got something else you want to
No,
add to that.
the one thing is you mentioned like you get fixated on the 5% when the 95% is going well.
Yeah.
The like a way to sum up what I think you just said is like be careful focusing too much on that 5% because if you do and when you do,
Mhm.
that 95% that was going properly or well will suffer as well. And like that 95% might include your family and your home life. And I know I've had to learn that. Like, I know I struggle putting my phone down. That is something I actively have to be aware of and work on. And if you watched me, you would not think, oh, Brad's a great example of someone that is very perfectly present at home. With that said, like knowing and kind of understanding certain things like that, I think is just, it's so key. And it's easy just to like look. Sometimes there's value in just looking at a business as if it's just a set of zeros and ones and just wanting to organize how we're going to like do this. It's just a math problem. And in some ways it is. With that said, how you show up, what's going on in your head, what's going on at home, it does matter. And I think the work and the goal and experience, the more of that we accumulate, the more effective we are at integrating, but also at, hey, I expect work to be stressful. I expect building a business to be stressful. It's going to be. There's no way it's not going to be. There's going to be hard days. If that's just the norm, then how can I make sure that I don't bring that home? And vice versa. I have a 9-month-old. It's my first. It's the best. It's exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
How can I not start my day later because I was up in the middle of the night with him? Like, that's a simple, like, well, obviously you just start. But before that, it like, you don't necessarily, like, you might, oh, I slept bad, but like now that this is the norm, like we have to try to find a way to just like normalize, like standardize things as much as possible, really, because like random inputs create random outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and if you allow yourself to be random, then you're rolling the dice.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that the truth? You know, and like there's changes in life, you know, and this is the thing that I think we need to keep in mind too that this too shall pass, and this is only temporary, right? Even good stuff, it's only temporary, right? And if we're going through something bad, we got to keep in mind, or if there's some kind of change, right? It doesn't even have to be good or bad change, right? And of course, having a baby is magnificent. It's like one of the greatest gifts that we as parents could ever receive, right? And there's a lot of change that comes with that when we were so used to self. Right now there's something that is dependent upon us, whether it's a dog or a child or whatever the case might be. Right now it's just not about us or our significant other. Now we have a human being, a person that is reliant upon us to take care of them, and that can definitely change your world upside down,
Oh,
especially
yeah.
if you're a business owner, because I think a lot of people get into business thinking like, yeah, I'm going to have all this time, on my hands, and I'm going to be able to do this and go on these lavishing vacations and all these vehicles and all these things, right? And that's not the case. That's not the case at all. You're trying to raise a family, and we talked about the ebbs and flows and the different seasons and things like that, and making sure that everything and everyone is taken care of. And then you throw, a child in the mix, right? And making sure that you're being the best dad that you can possibly be, and again, getting back to being my own worst critic. It's like, I feel like I'm failing, not today, but I'm just saying there are a lot of times that I have felt where I'm failing and stuff, but it's not easy. It's not even easy going to a job every day and raising a family. Like this really could apply to anybody that is just trying to be the best parent or best coworker or employee. It's not easy. And I think this is where a lot of us have to have, or have probably got or gained a lot of our empathy, for those that are around us, especially because if you wouldn't have told me, I wouldn't have known that you didn't sleep very well last night because you were up all night with a baby teething.
Well, last night I actually did fine, but
Right. But I think that's where we need to be a little more understanding too, because people go through things all the time, that we have no idea what they're going through. We have no idea if they slept or they didn't sleep, or why they're not performing. Especially as an entrepreneur, it's like we have the weight of the world on our shoulders and our families. And I think we tend to, when we get home, right, I'm going to switch gears here maybe a little bit, but like, I know I have been guilty of the family, and we talk about this a lot, and I talk about it a lot. So it stays on the forefront of my mind to make sure that when I get home, that my family isn't getting the fumes. Right, where I've just like poured into everybody and inspired everybody and, got shit done. And then I get home, it's like, I don't want to be messed with. I don't want to deal with it. I can't handle it. There's dinner. Dinner's not ready. Why are they crying? Why is their shoes all over the place? Because Chris Baker used to say, when daddy gets home, he sets the tone. And that is so true. I literally sit out in the parking lot in the driveway of my house and I clear out my inbox. I tried, was there an email that, I forgot to reply back to? And sometimes I'll sit out there for a good 30 minutes. I'll have the music on or my podcast or whatever it is, and I'll clean up my inbox, respond back to messages. Sometimes I'll choose like, okay, that needs to wait till tomorrow morning.
Mhm.
But then when I do go in the house, I'm a little bit better fit to go into the house and be present, when I'm there. And anybody can use that. You don't have to be an entrepreneur. You can work for somebody else, be in a management position or whatever. It doesn't even matter what you're doing, but it just, when daddy gets home, he sets the tone, and keep that in mind, because I've ruined my family's night all night just because of being a bear. Yeah. And quite honestly, I was kind of a bear last night. Like my son Rocket wanted to hang out with me, and he did. Thank God. He knows me well enough. And maybe he didn't notice, and maybe again here I'm picking on myself again, we kind of, he got into golf this year or last year, and I had to stop golfing for my family, and now I get to golf again because of my family, because Rocket caught the bug, and now he's kicking my ass all over the golf course. So I'm kind of envious of that. But so last night he's hitting balls and stuff. We kind of built this simulator type thing, and he's hitting the balls, and I'm kind of working out, and you know, and not that I was kind of giving him the cold shoulder, but I really just needed to let go before I could kind of like open up. Like I get guarded. I get, I don't really want to be talked to. But he hung around long enough, until I kind of like, okay, I'm at home. I need to unwind. I started lifting heavy weights a couple years ago, and now I'll do some cardio, and I love walking on a treadmill because that's where I'll listen to my books.
Yeah.
On the treadmill and stuff like that. And I didn't even turn it on. I started because I can see Rocky. I got the garage door open, and we built this net thing with the Sky Tracks or whatever the hell it's called. And I started communicating with him because I could see like he was looking at me out of the corner of my eye. Like, did you see that shot? Did you see how well I'm hitting it? And it was finally, I kind of just, it was like, I was like, dude, I know I'm doing it. Why am I doing this? And again, I don't know if he noticed it, and I'm kind of going off on a tangent here a little bit, but I guess my point is that I am far from being perfect and perfecting this work-life blend thing and shutting things off before I go in the driveway. And, I really try my damnedest. And I think half the battle is just being aware of what I was doing, what I'm creating here, the wedge that I'm putting between me and my family because of work that's going to be there tomorrow. And the thing that I've discovered too is that every single email that I get in my inbox is somebody else's problem.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, how has your problem become my problem?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like, and why am I taking myself so damn serious? At these times where it's like, I need to just be home. And I tend to forget too, like I'm doing this for them. At the end of the day, like I'm doing this for my family. And it's like here, it's removed me from my family, even when I'm with my family. And I don't know. I kind of went off on a tangent there a little bit. And just where I'm at and what I did, guilty of last night being a dick.
I love that. I think it's a great there's a guy named Jose Bolaños who I've been working one-on-one with. He's a leadership and like presence-based coach, which is something that maybe other like coaches will know of, like that are, but not something that like just someone who's a random everyday entrepreneur might know. Mm-hmm. But he's like formally trained, worked with billionaires, worked with all kinds of cool people. And I have the opportunity to get to work with him. And one of the things he reminds me of is like, hey, this isn't something to be solved. It's something to be managed. Because solved would insinuate that there's a destination. And there's no day, Ty, where I expect that you're going to be perfect or settled in this perfect, immaculate work-life balance or work-life integration or whatever we want to call it. It's more something to be aware of and manage it and try to like improve the way that we're managing it. And that I think goes for the ebbs and flows that we started this with. It's like, it's all the same. Like, I think one of the secrets or not so secrets is stay in the game. There's no destination. The moment you hit 100 million, you're going to want 150 million. The moment you hit 150 million, you're going to try to sell. Then when you try to sell, you're not going to be happy with the first number. And then you're going to get to a number and you're going to sell. And then you're going to be pissed that you had to do a consult back. And then when you're doing the consult back, you're going to have your new thing. And then that new thing's going to start the whole cycle again. Like it never stops. And if we try to solve everything as if there's some endpoint or destination, then it doesn't. There's so much pain, I would say, in that. There's a lot of unnecessary suffering thinking, what's my problem for being in this low again? What's my problem for not being present at home? Instead, it's, okay, I'm not present. How can I get present and kind of, how can I bring myself back to center rather than, oh, I'm further away from the destination than I thought? Because like a very dangerous thing. The reason I think that the highs, when you said like this too shall pass, goes for the good things too. Mm-hmm. The reason that the highs are a problem is because you think you've arrived at a destination, which would point to the fact that there's not work to be done still. Mm-hmm. or that you don't need to keep doing the work that got you there, which is a farce. So I think that's like where a lot of us go wrong, but also like where there's probably more suffering than necessary, because we think that we're solving for the wrong thing. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? Well, I love how you said that life in general is not, there is no destination. It's a journey that we're on, and it's got to start somewhere. Some trails are good trails and some roads are bad roads to travel, and it's through those moments and those ebbs and flows where we really, I think somebody said, I think David Carroll posted something a couple of weeks ago. It's not about the journey, or the goal. It's about who you become, trying to reach your goal.
yeah,
Right? And it is so true, especially if you're self-aware and if you're into personal development and things like that, which I feel like a lot of us are nowadays, because it's, we talk a lot about, personal development and things like that. And it all really starts in here, right? Like, whether we're
yeah,
an entrepreneur or whatever, or a thought leader, we have to work on ourselves first and foremost. And you talked about, getting enough rest and that's some of it, making sure that you're getting enough rest. And some days you're not. And this, the thing I've learned about rest is you never get caught up on it. But I need to know myself. I need to know how much rest I need in order to function at a high capacity, right? That I need to eat better. I need to exercise. I need to take care of myself. And it kind of sounds a little selfish, but if I'm not taking care of myself, I can't take care of anything else,
yeah.
let alone, day-to-day task at work or when things come up. So speaking of which, like, so how do you handle, pressure and stuff? Like, what do you do for an outlet to handle, and to manage, stress,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So honestly, like the thing that I usually, when I'm in those lows that I mentioned,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and sometimes, and I still will probably have what feels like a rock bottom moment in the future, I'm sure. But the point is, like, generally, I get to the point of trying to control everything to where I realize I can't control anything. And then I just like give it to God. So I don't know exactly where you fall, and I don't want to like turn the podcast into that, but
Mm-hmm.
that's prayer is absolutely the biggest thing for me that will bring me back home when I feel like my mind is just everywhere else, and bring me back to center and to being present. And it's really just, the Bible is relatively explicit about, hey, bring your anxieties to me and bring your stress to me. My yoke is light. Those, like, the Bible encourages us to think that way. Don't trust in your own ways. Like Philippians says something like, but the point that I'm making is simply, I need to ground myself there
Mm-hmm.
and in those truths and in the words, in the word, because like when you do, you learn how to listen rather than just ask. Because when you're in that state, when you're freaking out, when you're stressed, you don't know what to ask.
Mm-hmm.
You're not good at asking questions when you're when you're panicked, when you're like fight or flight is going off.
Mm-hmm.
And learning just to listen rather than ask in those moments in prayer, for me, that's been like the only way. And that allows me to be a leader in my home in that regard. That allows me to serve my wife, like, rather than just expect to have dinner, like all these things. I want to make sure that I'm giving. And when I am able to just, that's what it always says. Like in those moments, I hear be still, and I hear give, like give, don't take, a version of that, which is stop worrying about, like, stop worrying, like just give. whether it can be a million different versions of giving. There's a lot, but like, don't be someone that just takes in the conversations. Try to make sure that when you interact with people, or when you're working with someone or your team or your clients or prospects or just anyone, how can you give or uplift in that interaction rather than take?
Mhm.
And that generally brings me back to center pretty well.
Right on. No, great answer. Great answer. And don't ever be afraid to talk about God. We've talked about it, numerous times on this, and many people have different interpretations of it, and that's okay too. But I too, seek strength, through that. So speaking of which, like, so who have been like some of your biggest mentors,
Yeah.
and or where do you get your inspiration from? You know what I mean? Like, are you outside of the Bible? Like, do you follow Craig Groeschel, John Maxwell? Like, who has been, because I know for me, I've had mentors, but they don't know that they're my mentor. So I
Yeah.
think, like, so is there anybody that has really been very impactful on this journey for you?
Yeah. Well, so I already mentioned Jose. Jose has been incredibly impactful. Jose Bolaños. I stopped drinking because of, like, as I was working with him, and it wasn't like it was in the same light of avoiding a rock bottom moment rather than waiting for one.
Mhm.
So similar to that, I don't think everyone needs to do that, but I did. I have learned just to think and kind of learned different vocab as a result of working with him. And I look up to him so much. Like, he's become such a close friend. And I would say he's been incredibly impactful. My dad is, I'm going to try not to get emotional, but my dad is just one of the best human beings I could even like imagine. He had a hard childhood. I didn't.
Mhm.
Like, he didn't bring it with him.
Mhm.
And as I've gotten older, I've been able to recognize and see and look back on, like, the battles that he was fighting that I had no idea he was fighting. And the fact that he was able to, like, insulate me from that is just something, like, I'm incredibly grateful for. And he serves almost anyone he interacts with. He's a lawyer, which sometimes, like, people are like, "Oh, a lawyer." Meet my dad. You won't you won't think of him like you think of all the other lawyers. And he also, like, as I've become older, I've had an opportunity to, like, go to a few events and meet other people that are more peers with my dad. And I find out stuff about him, like that he donated this, or that he is on the board here, or that he changed this person's life by, like, meeting with them once a week. And my dad just didn't talk about it. And
Mhm.
that level of humility is just, like, amazing. And he's also just going back to, like, he's such a strong Christian. Like, he lives out loud in that regard, and, like, unashamed. And he's been able to do very well in life, and that's, like, it's just been so inspiring. And then John Bros, I would say, would be within the industry.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, he's just he's the best. I love John. He's so fun. Like, and he's a lot of what I even work with my clients on are results of, like, multiple hour-long conversations with John, like, on a Saturday morning, just, like, talking through strategy. We have a business idea every other conversation that we have, and have to tame ourselves.
Mhm.
But I just think he's truly just a good person. And he's been able to reach some great levels of success as well. And I've had an inside look because I've had the opportunity to work with MHI when that was what they were running. And I worked with them on their marketing and their strategy. And I helped some of the initial, like, setup and branding and stuff with ugly roofs. And that was in that I had the chance to like really get to know John.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been really cool. So those would be like the three main ones that like come to mind. Alex Hormozy, I love his content. I love his podcasts. If you are a client and you listen to Alex Hormozy, you'll realize a lot of like what we do comes from principles that he teaches. I'm not stealing it or copying anything or claiming anything as my own. But you'll hear me reference him a lot because I think he's wise beyond his years. So those would be some of the big ones. What about you? I want to hear your answer.
Oh, wow. So, oh man, that's a great question. So, yeah, no, I agree with you. Alex Hormozy has magnificent content. John Broche is an amazing human being. And I too, my father has been a huge impact and influence, on my life as well. And I guess I'll start with my dad. Because I was going to ask you the question, like, what was your, biggest lesson or something that is, that your father has had on you, but, I'll ask you that later. My mom and dad have been my biggest cheerleaders. I mean, from day one, obviously. Right. But my mom and dad, my mom has passed, and has probably had a bigger impact on me since she's been gone. I know that might sound a little weird, but one of the ways that I grieved with that after she had passed, we had the opportunity of taking care of her. My wife actually took care of her mostly, up until she passed. She passed away in our house. And I've mentioned this a couple times on the show, but she was very involved with the community. I mean, like full time, 10x. Like she helped start the DARE program at our elementary school. She was in the Chamber of Commerce, Lions Club, Santa's Breakfast, Summer Jubilees, Red Hat Ladies, Scarlet Ladies. And I'm mentioning these organizations because the part that she played in these organizations was the charitable side of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't even list I mean, they put a 9/11 memorial up in honor of my mom. Like, this is how impactful my mom is. And of course, as a child growing up, and she's dragging us all over the place doing these things, it's kind of like, dude, what the heck are we doing? And I didn't realize what she was about or what she was doing. I just knew, some of the stuff was kind of like, kids on Saturday mornings don't want to be, feeding people and stuff like that. But I get it now. But one of the ways that I had mourned that was I went straight to work. The hearse came, picked her up. I went to work. And we really started to dive in the community at that point in time. I was like, all right, I got some big shoes to fill here. And of course, we talk a lot about legacy. And, so I've tried to carry that torch. There's things that I forget about that we've done and do and still continuously do annually. Our most current one was Roofers in Recovery golf outing, and raised, I don't know, like $17,000 to $20,000.
Yeah.
In a matter of like 4 hours. At that golf outing, this was this past September, October, November, something like that, this past year. But we do all kinds of things like that. So my mom has had a huge impact on me. For that reason, my father, I can't forget about my dad, because obviously they're co-pilots, right? So if he was there, she was there, or something, and you want to talk about humility. There are so many things that my dad probably didn't get credit for as a kid that allowed my mom to be in that position to be able to take care of other people as my mom did, right? And being an older adult today, I understand the behind the scenes things that have to take place in order for people to have an impact on other people's lives and stuff. And my dad also was involved with a lot of those things, but the tenacity and resiliency, because my dad too and mom and dad both were entrepreneurs, very successful entrepreneurs, in the hospitality industry though.
Okay.
My dad is a great carpenter. but was a mechanical engineer by trade. And so my dad worked full time, but also owned a bar, a restaurant, a catering business, and a whole other list of other businesses. So I too have gotten that entrepreneurial bug from my parents. So they first and foremost would be the biggest influences of where and why I am, in that second chance that my dad had given me 20 plus years ago. Because my childhood, I was just kind of on fire, and but not in a good way.
Yeah, no, me too.
You know what I mean? So my dad actually gave me a second chance one time. And I'll never forget it. And I'm still paying him back for that in ways that he has no idea why I'm still paying him back. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a weekly or monthly conversation that we have, but I do it because I'll never forget. I had an old van that broke down, and like 2-3 hours away from home. I'll share the story. And I couldn't even drive. I had to pay a guy to drive me. And I'm a mechanic, not an auto mechanic, but roofing, siding. I came from the production side of things, and we were building this deck. I just got out of jail, and had this piece of crap 1980 E350 van that no heat, no air conditioning, no nothing. This thing was on its last leg, and I tore off a slate roof and couldn't afford a dump trailer or anything. And so I was loading the slate into the empty bed of this van. Long story short, we're going up a hill and the tranny went out, like literally midway up this hill. And Jesse driving the van just as crazy as I am, or else I don't know why he'd have been there with a freaking drunk like me. But I'm a good salesperson, convinced it was a good idea to come work for me and drive my ass around. So anyhow, those of you that know Jesse, God bless him. He's no longer with us. But worked for us for a long, long time. Anyhow, he got us off, and literally when an older vehicle shuts down, you lose steering, you lose brakes, you lose everything. So Jesse got us in this church parking lot, and literally inches away from hitting this church. We coasted, and for whatever reason, the brakes weren't working. The steering locked up. We couldn't get it restarted again. So long story short, we got home, and when I got back, my dad had went and bought me a van. It wasn't a new van. It was a new to me, E350 van, and I did not deserve it.
Yeah.
But at that point in time, he must have saw something different in me. And I regret getting rid of that van. And I still got a sign. There was a little sign that I had found on a job site. It says, "Beware dog." And I still have that sign. And I put it in the back of the window, just, for an alarm system type of thing. But I really felt like it was very relevant to the way my lifestyle was prior to cleaning my act up, is that, just beware of the dog, because scratch the surface at any given time. He could veer its ugly head. And it's just a reminder, because it was broken and dry rotted plastic, almost like a for sale or for rent sign, but it said beware dog.
Yeah.
Those red, white, and black signs. And, but he gave me that second chance. And I believe in second chances more than anything, more than anybody that you probably ever met. And sometimes second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth chances I'll give people, because I have been given so many chances over the years. I mean, I know that I'm on borrowed time, and that's one of my other motivational pieces to why and how I operate is because I'm on borrowed time. It's like, how you get those annoying extended warranty insurance things on. Well, I've been given an extended warranty.
Yeah.
That I picked the phone up when I got the call, I answered and I accepted, the extended warranty. And it's like, so I have a choice. Do I do nothing with it? Right. This borrowed time that I'm on, or do I accept the challenge and know that I've been still placed here for a reason, to have a positive impact on people's lives, and take advantage of that, or waste it? Do I waste it take advantage of it in a negative way. So my dad, I guess, to kind of circle back, because I could keep talking about that, has played a huge role in how I conduct business today. He's still alive. He's still with us. He's kicking. He's 78 years old, and he's like the most hardest working, intelligent person that I know today. Okay. So immediate family, that would be my dad. Over the years, I followed John Maxwell
Oh yeah.
a lot. Ed Milet, I'm a firm believer in that things are happening for us, not to us.
That says go one more.
Yep, one more, right?
Yeah.
Just one more. And I live that way. We live just one more here. So again, these are mentors. John Maxwell doesn't know he's my mentor. I'm sure there's thousands, probably 1 million people that John mentors that he doesn't even know. And same with Ed Milet. But I follow a lot of their content. There's probably not a week that doesn't go by that I don't listen or read. I have a daily devotional book by John Maxwell on my desk. I read it every day, and apply it to my life somehow, some way, shape, or form, personal or professional life, every single day. They have been, and right now it's funny that you brought up Alex Hormozy. I follow Layla, I think his wife's name.
She's fantastic.
She is amazing. I listen to her every day on the way to work. I love her content. I love that it's not long and drawn out for an hour like our podcast is. But I like it that it's like 12, 23 minutes. So I can listen to most of it on the way to work, then listen to the rest of it. But it seems like she's always where I'm at least with her content, I'm struggling with something at work or even at home. And that it just seems like I don't know what it is right now. Cause I've gone through, different, not ebbs and flows, but where I'll follow Craig Groeschel, love Craig Groeschel.
Yeah.
His content about leadership. And again, this is all about personal development stuff. So, I'm listening to what I'm trying to work on. I'm trying to be a better parent. I'm trying to be a better leader. I'm trying to be a bigger pillar. So I'm listening to non-industry related people, coaches, Coach Wooden. I love his stuff. He's got the pyramid of success. If you're in a leadership position, I highly recommend listening. And he's a basketball coach. So preachers, pastors, and sports coaches is the what I follow outside of our industry, as far as, and I'm trying to be, an industry. No, I don't even want to say I'm trying to be an industry leader, but I'm just trying to have an impact. I want to, because of this, I want to leave it better than it was the way that we found it, if that makes sense, our industry.
Yeah. And I think your podcast name, Behind the ToolBelt, is very descriptive. It's like, hey, let's talk about the real stuff. Let's talk about what actually goes into running a roofing business, not just tactics, strategies. Like, let's broaden it up a little bit. So
yeah, for sure. And
but I wanted to commend you because I think you're doing it.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And I never want to be that self-proclaimed thought leader. You know what I mean? I'd rather have you tell me that than, you're screaming that from the rooftops, because if you only knew who I am, I still kind of live that way too. I'm just very self-conscious. If you only knew who I was, you may not want me on your podcast, but I've also learned that that's very inspiring to other people. Like, if he can do it, I can do it. And that's really truly what this is about. If I can do this, you can do this too, without a PhD, and the roofing industry, I stumbled across it too. You know what I mean? It found me. It really did. It found me when I was in the lowest place in my life. And, and I've been very mechanically inclined. I've been gifted. God gifted me that way to be good with my hands, to be good with people. And I've become a builder. I'm a builder of teams. I'm a builder of people. I'm a builder of companies. And I just like to build stuff, and again, I don't want to waste that. I don't want to waste my talent. I wanted to apply it because I've always was told in school, if he could just apply himself, yeah, he'd be such a great student, and I just wasn't a very good applier,
Yeah.
I was bored. I'd get bored. I had ants in my pants, which is known today as HDAD or whatever the hell it is. ADAD. What is it?
ADHD.
ADHD. Yeah. So
Yeah.
whatever. I guess back then I was just hyperactive.
Mhm.
It's what they chalked it up to, even though I didn't have to take anything for it. But I've learned how to use that to my advantage too. Being very high strung and very neurotic. I'm grateful to be to suffer from neurosis. I wouldn't be who I am or where we're at today if I wasn't a sped.
Yeah.
And I've learned to capitalize on I don't even want to call them shortcomings. They're
towering strengths.
Yeah, they're my assets,
Yeah.
and I don't let them hold me back. I use them and I've learned how to do that kind of stuff. So, hey, buddy. So yeah. What time is it? Shit, we're at our hour mark here. Okay. Before we wrap this thing up here, man, you gave us a bunch of gold here. And thank you so much for sharing your insight with our audience and anybody that's listening out there who wants to learn more about, Built Right contractor, program. We're going to post your link in the comment section and stuff like that. I'm sorry, we didn't really get into exactly what
I enjoyed this. This was fun.
That what you do, but we will put your contact information in the links and stuff like that. And, if there's anybody out there that could get something from this, please share this with your crew. We appreciate it. And Brad, is there anything, that you want to leave us with before we sign off here?
I think just the one thing I will say is try to be kind to yourself. Know that there's always another day. And as you're navigating entrepreneurship, know that everyone's just figuring it out, whether they've been doing it for 10 years or 50 years. Part of it is just whoever's able to stay in that state of figuring it out the longest is the one who is able to evolve and do things that maybe you hope to one day do. So just be kind to yourself and don't take it all too seriously. It can be fun if you decide it is.
Absolutely. That's what we're here to be joyful people. I honestly believe that's why we've been put on this planet, right? Not to be miserable. Especially those of us that have been given a second chance, right? Mm-hmm. Not to take ourselves so dang serious. So, but anyhow, thank you so much. We'll have to reconnect after this at some point in time. Let's carve out some time and connect. I really want to hear about more about what you're doing. You know what I mean? Because you're involved with so much, and I honestly believe that I personally could probably hear a lot about what it is that you're doing and see how you might be able to help me out personally and professionally. So thank you for what it is that you do for our industry. You are also another, one of a few trailblazers that are leaving our industry in a better place than it was when you found it, and the impact that you're having on contractors across the country. So thank you for that.
Thank
Brad.
you.
Yeah. And if anybody out there, got anything out of this, please share it with whoever. And if you haven't liked, loved, or subscribed, please check us out on our YouTube channel. I think we don't have very many subscribers yet. We're kind of late to the show when it comes to that. I think we started a YouTube channel about a year ago. But we are allowed to stream live, so you can catch us on our live streams. And obviously the replay will be on that. And of course, social media, Facebook, IG, Spotify, Apple Play, Google Play, all that stuff. So if you're just now tuning in, please check us out on the replay, because Brad definitely dropped some gold. And 7 o'clock tonight, it will be reposted on Facebook. So till then, stay safe and take care of each other. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you.